Hi, welcome back to Estrellita Royalty Astrology. I'm Victoria. Thank you so much for tuning into the first episode. Those of you who joined me on the new moon in Gemini. I so appreciate you taking the time to like, subscribe, and comment, and just directly contact me by offering me really meaningful feedback about the episode. So the number one theme I heard was that I should make the episodes shorter. So I will. I'm going to split up this talk on the full moon and the horoscopes so you can see them as separate videos. I'm also searching for a name for this show. So while the astro business is Estrellita Royalty, I'm still figuring out what we can call this show. Ideas? So before we get into today's full moon breakdown, just a reminder of what we're doing here. So we're going to break down and explore the ancient archetypal language of the stars, currently with a focus on the moon cycles. And we'll use this ancient language to talk out the patterns and rhythms cycling up above so that it might be able to offer us some insight here down on the ground. So here we go. Today, we're talking about the full moon coming up on June 29th, 2026. Full moons are the peak of a lunation cycle. We have access to the most light, and we can see what we couldn't see at the new moon when we were planting whatever seeds we were at that time. This full moon will be at 8 degrees Capricorn at 7:56 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it will activate the Capricorn area of your chart. You may also feel it the most if you have Cancer, Aries, or Libra placements, give or take a few degrees, near 8 degrees in those signs. Okay, honestly, this full moon is making me feel a little insecure. I'm thinking, oh God, we're going to be a little in our heads. We might be a little uncomfortable. I know we can be a little uncomfortable, but I'm like, ugh. So I guess let what comes up, comes up. Maybe it can show us what might help us along in our story of this full moon story cycle. So first, moon in Capricorn. Of note about all moons in Capricorn, the moon is not the most comfortable in that sign. And part of it is Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. And Saturn is structure, is hard, cold reality. It's the goat climbing the mountain. The moon connects us to our body, our lineages, our mothers, nurturance, intuition, cycles of time. And again, it's not comfortable. In astrology, we say that a moon in Capricorn is in detriment or exile, is literally how it's phrased. I was noticing, though, that I think is interesting that the moon and Saturn also converge when it comes to memory and time. Saturn remembers and honors the long line of hard work. And the moon remembers too, albeit in a less linear capacity. So yes, uncomfortable, but there is some connection there with honoring time and memory. Okay, so first up, we have the sun and moon. Sun and moon are always going to be opposite each other in a full moon. So when the moon is squaring something, the sun will be squaring it as well. So the sun and moon are squaring Neptune at 4 degrees. Neptune's at 4 Aries. And the moon squaring Neptune particularly makes me think about friction that we might feel between seeking comfort and safety through structure, with the idea of getting pulled into some kind of spiritual or larger than the self cause, where there may be a sense of purpose of safety, but a felt sense of a loss of safety at the same time. So Neptune's also connecting with Pluto, and that sense, it might have this sense of powerful spirituality at play that might feel like it's a part of that loss of safety, if that makes sense. So that might feel uncomfortable, but also might be regenerative. It might be positive, right? I just am noting that potential discomfort feeling. The moon, sun and moon are also going to be squaring Saturn at 14 degrees, Saturn at 14. And the moon squaring Saturn makes me think of the friction between seeking comfort through safety and structure being intercepted by fear or a limitation of the self in some way. So where have we gotten in our own way? Where did we not honor the structure that we needed at some earlier point in the cycle? So a couple of things about Saturn, since Saturn is ruling this new moon, is the host of this, full moon in Capricorn. Saturn is in its fall in Aries, which I spoke about in the last video, and you'll hear astrologers talk about that as long as Saturn is in Aries for the next couple of years. And Saturn wants us to slow down. And Aries doesn't. Aries is wanting to kind of go after things and speed things up. And so that disconnect makes me feel, that dissonance makes me feel like there's like almost like a self-consciousness that's present with Saturn. Saturn wanting to trailblaze ahead in Aries, but it's Saturn, so it's slowing things down. And it's almost like that idea of speeding up, slowing down it's almost like there's something embarrassing about having to slow down when you want to really kind of go after things and speed things up. So that was what was coming up for me, this idea of self-consciousness. Jupiter has been in Cancer for the last year. Jupiter is a planet that spends about a year in a sign. So it's been in Cancer for the last year. And after this full moon, literally the next day is going to leave Cancer. So it feels wrapped up in this full moon in the sense that Jupiter's having its own culmination and finishing of this cycle in a year in Cancer. And it's also coinciding with this full moon story in some way. Mercury also just went retrograde in Cancer, literally the same day, and it's only 3 degrees away from Jupiter. So there's a conjunction there. And it's making me think about us wanting to cling to a story or make us revisit something that we previously had. So you'll hear astrologers talk about Jupiter as making things bigger and as the planet of abundance and sometimes luck, I guess, depending on whether you have a day or a night chart. Jupiter also is a big picture planet, and it wants us to make meaning and grow and learn. So sometimes the thing that is bigger at the time might feel hard, but usually there's some kind of lesson that Jupiter is wanting to, that works out sort of for our betterment. So in this configuration, it has me thinking of us going back to how we communicated or didn't communicate. Mercury, how we communicate and think in Cancer, retrograde, and Jupiter in Cancer finishing up its cycle. And how that fits into a larger story of what we're learning about ourselves and to better understand the meaning of maybe why something happened the way that it did for us. It will revisit degrees as far back as June 12th. Though paired with Jupiter at the final degrees in Cancer, as I was mentioning, it makes me think of the need to review the past year as well, as Jupiter has been hanging out in Cancer for the last year. So as much as the tenderness and nurturance and care we wanted to show ourselves in Cancer and each other, we're not done thinking about it for some reason. Mars in this chart just entered Gemini, and making this Mars is the planet of action, making it a bit more in the learning or communicative realm in Gemini. And it's approaching a conjunction with Uranus. It's not exact, but it's approaching it. And you'll hear astrologers talking about that. That's going to happen in July. So Uranus rules the unexpected and that which can be innovative, out of the box, futuristic, technology. So astrologers have been talking about this one and how it maybe can feel explosive in some way. So what might be coming to a head? You might also, with this configuration, have a sudden flash of insight or come upon some new sudden information that makes you change course in some way. Mars, the planet of action, is also squaring the nodes of the moon in Virgo and Pisces, right before they switch into the next sign. The nodes of the moon are tied up in eclipses, and they help us tell stories about what we are working through personally and collectively. They move through a pair of signs for about a year and a half and have about an 18-year cycle. So the nodes are at the first degrees of their sign in Virgo and Pisces, and meaning they're going to dip back because they move backwards from our reference point. So they're about to dip into the next energies of Leo and Aquarius. So I'm thinking about that. It's making me think about a wrapping up, something that needs tending, needs to be wrapped up. So how does Mars squaring these degrees harken us back to the last year and a half? Since Mars, the planet of action, is involved in the square, and squares in evolutionary astrology can be about skipped steps. So it makes me think, where do we need to take action and haven't yet? Where have we been stuck overly mired in the weeds and details, Virgo, South Node in Virgo, at the expense of higher vision, North Node in Pisces? Of course, details and a larger vision should coexist, but sometimes these things can get out of balance. So where might this have happened? The moon in Capricorn is also trining the south node in Virgo that I'm referencing and sextiling the north node in Pisces. And really, all that's to say is those are supportive connections. And so there might be an opportunity to be emotionally ready to take a leap that Mars is being pulled into. And again, approaching that conjunction with Uranus, it's like there's something Martian happening. And in Gemini, communicative. So something happening in that realm. Saturn at 14 degrees Aries is also the ruler and host of the full moon. Saturn at 14 degrees Aries is also loosely trining Venus and Leo at 19 degrees. And that's a helpful placement and for connecting with Venus and Leo. So where have we, something you'll hear, the connection with Venus and Saturn, Venus being beauty, aesthetics, values, things that we value, relationships, and Saturn being hard work. And so paired together, you think of somebody who worked hard on maybe in Venus and Leo, maybe like a performance, and then you seeing a culminating show, for example. So something that required our blood, sweat, tears, and devotion, something creative, and it's become beautiful because of that hard work. So this could be positive. And so it's a win for this full moon. I said I was insecure. Maybe this is the what we celebrate of this full moon. Okay, that's it for now. Thank you for joining me. I'll have 2 more videos about this full moon. In the next video, I'm going to get into dates where you can look back to locate yourself in this full moon story. And the one after that will be horoscopes. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining me. If you're enjoying these episodes, please like, subscribe. If you're interested in booking a reading, please go to the link in the description, estrellitaroyalty.com, to check out my offerings. You can contact me and I will get back to you with a booking link. Feel free to let me know in the comments as well how the full moon in Capricorn is going for you. Also, if you have an idea for a show name, let me know there too. Bye.